मैम स्टार्ट करें।
Okay, ji, Assalamualaikum and good afternoon to all the third years. I am Dr. Vajia Nurlain from the Department of Family Medicine as part of your clinical posting. This is the third lecture in your series. Okay, so today we will be doing the general physical examination. We all are well aware that this is a very new thing, the distant learning thing, and examinations will be a little, difficult to learn in this way. But we have tried to make it as, learnable for you as possible. So by the end of today's lecture, you will be able to actually perform general physical examination. You can practice it on any volunteer from your home and identify some common causes of the positive findings. Okay, so before any examination, the general considerations. Introduce yourself to the patient always before any examination. Take consent of the patient. And as we are talking about an outpatient history and in clinic history, so you take verbal consent from the patient, or you can take a written consent in case of an hospital setting. Always explain to the patient what you intend to do, what you're trying to examine on the patient, so the patient is comfortable while the doctor is doing that examination. And arrange for a chaperone if needed. A chaperone is the person that, in case of a female doctor and a male patient, you need to have an attendant with the patient present at the time of examination, during the examination, or a male nurse, and vice versa. As we're talking about the general physical examination and a clinical setting, so the examination of the patient start as soon as the patient walks into your clinic. You start with observing the gait, how's the patient walking, the general appearance of the patient, the facial expression, if he's looking anxious looking, is he looking in pain. Okay. You start the examination with you recording the height, the weight, your BMI, which is height in kg over your weight in kg divided by height in meter square. The temperature, pulse rate. Ideally, in outpatient, you just look for the rate and the rhythm and the pulse rate, the heart rate, and if required, respiratory rate of the patient. Develop a sequence and practice that for every examination for your own ease. You develop a sequence that you start from head and toe, head, and then you proceed to the toe, or whatever sequence you start from the hands and then you proceed to the head and toe. Whatever, develop your own sequence and practice that so you are comfortable and you're not missing out anything in when you're doing the examination. I'll be playing this video of examination, general physical examination. It's around an 8-minute video. And I want all of you to look carefully the sequence of the examination explained in this and how the procedures are actually done. Can you guys hear me? If yes, you can write yes in the chat box. Okay, so I'm not sure if you were able to hear the audio. Some of you were writing in the chat box that you were not able to listen to the audio with us, but you have seen the sequence. After consenting, how will you perform major examinations, which include from head to toe, starting from the hair examination, looking for anemia, jaundice, then cyanosis. Then you come down for the lymph node examination. You have to look for any swelling or lump, especially in the neck, in front of the neck, most commonly the thyroid examination. Then you can come down and you have to look on the hands. In the hands, you have to check for the temperature, any nodes, any skin changes, obvious, which you can see and appreciate. And okay, now we will be discussing about the clubbing. As you were shown how to examine for clubbing, and the angles were explained to you. So normally there is a slight angle when you look between your nail bed and your nail, which should be present. And the Shamroth window sign is exactly when you approximate your two fingers, you can see a small diamond-shaped space in between, which is normal, and it's called Shamroth window, which is obliterated in case of clubbing. So it is basically divided into 4 grades, grade 1 till 4. The fourth grade is sometimes also known as hypertrophic osteoarthropathy. And clubbing basically is there present because of long-standing cases of hypoxemia. If you find clubbing in any patient, you have to keep these causes in mind. Clubbing can be congenital or familial in 5 to 10% of the cases. It's running in the family, and every member of the family has clubbing, and it does not have any pathological cause. But acquired clubbing can have causes which can relate to the respiratory system or your heart or GI. So some of the common causes are like lung cancer, lung abscess. All these are chronic conditions, and some of these causes, when they are treated, the clubbing can be reversed. Bronchiectasis, cystic fibrosis, pulmonary fibrosis can lead to clubbing. Congenital heart diseases, especially the cyanotic heart diseases, infective endocarditis, liver cirrhosis, inflammatory bowel disease, celiac disease, and sometimes in patient of thyrotoxicosis, you can appreciate clubbing. If any one of you have any question, you can please write in the chat box so that we can take the questions simultaneously. Okay. Cyanosis, the bluish discoloration or the bluish tinge in the skin, it can be divided into central and versus the peripheral cyanosis. The sites to look are obviously different. Central cyanosis is usually like in the central, like below the tongue, inside the mouth or lips. They show the central cyanosis. And peripheral cyanosis in the tips of your fingernails, your ear lobules, your tip of your nose. They can show your peripheral cyanosis. Always remember that cyanosis, a central cyanosis, is never normal. There is always a pathological cause behind it. Peripheral cyanosis can be due to cold weather. It may be normal, but central cyanosis is never normal. It's always pathological. Some of the common causes of cyanosis, there's a mnemonic if you want to remember it. It's known as cold palms. So the peripheral cyanosis causes are cold, obstruction, like in case there's a AV fistula in a renal dialysis patient, so it can cause peripheral cyanosis, unilateral peripheral cyanosis. Okay, one of the pathological causes of peripheral cyanosis is left ventricular failure and shock, and decreased cardiac output also leads to peripheral cyanosis because the capillary pressures are reduced, and so the cold, clammy skin and cyanosis are peripherally found in cases of decreased cardiac output. Central cyanosis, polycythemia is one of the cause. High altitude patients, because they have high anemia, high hemoglobin, so they can exhibit central cyanosis. Lung diseases normally causes central cyanosis. Then if the patient has met self-hemoglobinemia, poisoning, and if there's a shunt, then central cyanosis is present. Okay. In the video, you must have seen the lymph node examination. All of the lymph node, different groups of lymph node have to be examined, like cervical, femoral, inguinal. They have to be examined, axillary. They have to be examined in their groups and noted for any enlargement. The texture of the lymph node is firm, it's rubbery, it's hard, if it is adherent to the skin. The important causes of lymphadenopathy, some of the important causes. For generalized lymphadenopathy, it can be in any viral disease or bacterial, especially with EBV, which is the Epstein-Barr virus, which causes glandular fever or Burkitt's lymphoma. Cytomegalovirus infection or HIV can cause generalized lymphadenopathy. Bacterial infections like brucellosis or syphilis, and for that case, any bacterial tonsillitis, even in tonsillitis, you find cervical lymphadenopathy. Protozoal toxoplasmosis, malignancies, lymphoma has to be ruled out if you're finding generalized lymphadenopathy in a patient. Acute or chronic lymphocytic leukemias. In case of inflammatory disease like rheumatoid arthritis, SLE, or sarcoidosis can also present with generalized lymphadenopathy. Similarly, there are some cases which can only cause localized lymphadenopathy of one certain region, like any acute or chronic bacterial or viral infection. And some malignancies and lymphomas also just present with a localized lymphadenopathy. For example, in case of gastric cancer, you find a simple single solitary node, lymph node, the Virchow's node, in your base of your neck. So you, by just looking at these findings in general physical examination, you can actually are narrowing down your differentials that what it can be. It is generalized, it is localized. What are the causes of the localized lymphadenopathy? What are the causes of generalized lymphadenopathy? So you can are actually narrowing down your differentials on the basis of what you have made on your history, and now with the help of general physical examination, you're narrowing down your diagnosis. Okay, for edema, in a walk-in patient, obviously, you're not going to look for the sacral edema, because sacral edema, sacrum, the edema that we look at sacrum is for the patients that are bedridden. So normally in a walk-in patient, we are checking only for the ankle edema. It can be pitting or non-pitting, and it can be generalized bilateral or localized. So there are certain causes which can lead to pitting edema, like right-sided heart failure, pericardial effusion, renal failure. Nephritic syndromes can lead to pitting edemas, liver cirrhosis due to protein deficiencies, malnutrition, malabsorption. These are all one of the most common causes of pitting edema. Localized pitting edema can be due to venous obstruction. In bedridden patients, you can find localized pitting edemas around the sacrum, especially. And inflammation like cellulitis of a limb can cause a localized edema of that limb only. Non-pitting edema causes most commonly lymphatic obstruction, such as infections like filariasis or Milroy syndrome, or irradiation caused to the group of lymph nodes after any chemotherapy. If you are irradiating any certain area, the localized lymph nodes of that area get swollen or obstructed, leading to non-pitting edema. Angioedema, which is normally a reaction to any allergic substance, can lead to non-pitting edema of face, of neck areas, and myxedema, severe cases of hypothyroidism. It's a non-pitting edema. Okay. When you are doing a general physical examination, examination of any swelling or lump is also a part of general physical examination. Normally, we look for the lumps. It can be anywhere in the body, but normally we are looking for the neck swellings or neck lumps, especially. Again, there's a mnemonic if you want to remember it. It's a space bit. You have to look for the size of the swelling, the position, its attachment to the underlying organs and the overlying skin, the consistency of the swelling, it's firm, it's soft, it's mobile, it's hard, it's stony hard. The edges of the lump, you can palpate the edges. It's a circular, rounded, well circumscribed swelling. It's a rough swelling. The surface and the shape of the swelling. Pulsation, thrills, and bruise, especially in case of thyroid swellings, you can find bruise and thrills over the enlarged thyroid gland. Inflammation, you have to feel for any redness, any warmth or tenderness of the swelling. And trans-elimination, sometimes, like for example, if you have scrotal swellings, you can do the trans-elimination test if there is fluid present inside. Even in case of cysts, which are fluid-filled cysts, trans-elimination is positive. So basically, this is the general physical examination. We have tried to cover majority of your parts of general physical examination in this. And if there are any queries, you can answer that. Sometimes in joint physical examination, the patient walks in, there are some facies which are very obvious and prominent, which you're not noticing or documenting in every patient. These are called spot diagnosis. Like a patient Down syndrome walks in, you know the specific facies of Down syndrome. You have to note it down in your examination. Similarly, there are certain conditions, like if you're examining a patient who has a cataract, or you can see the white reflex in the eye, so you have to examine it. You have to note it down. Actually, note down every examination you're performing. Okay. So, do we have any questions? Do we have any questions? Can they hear me still? जी वालेकुम सलाम. कोई क्वेश्चंस?
मैम फिलहाल मेरे पास कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं आ रहे.
क्वेश्चन हाँ मेरे पास भी पता नहीं प्राइवेटली विंडो है या नहीं. अच्छा इन लोगों को
वीडियो क्या हुआ, मैंने पब्लिक रखा हुआ सबको.
ठीक है. वीडियो
कॉल.
इन लोगों को वीडियो की शायद आवाज़ नहीं आई थी, तो क्या मैं दोबारा प्ले करने की कोशिश कर लूँ? 8 मिनट की वीडियो है, अगर कोई इनमें से आंसर कर दे. They didn't hear the audio.
कोई मसला नहीं, आप स्टार्ट करते हैं.
मैं एक दफ़ा मैं दोबारा प्ले कर देती हूँ फॉर देम. ओके, एक सोने वाला.
मैडम आवाज अभी भी नहीं आ रही है वीडियो में.
नहीं आ रही है तो फिर बंद कर देती हूँ, फिर फायदा नहीं है ना, एक दफ़ा तो प्ले हो गई है. स्टॉप शेयर कर देती हूँ. अगर इन लोगों को कोई सवाल है, एक क्वेश्चन था उसका मैंने आंसर किया है. सकीना, आई थिंक यू आस्क्ड that in family medicine practice is a general physical examination performed each time. So it's not just in family medicine practice. In every patient, be it an inpatient or an outpatient, general physical examination is performed. The only difference that in family medicine, we performed a targeted examination, because obviously in a clinic, when you have to take a history and examination in 7 to 8 minute consultation, we can't perform a whole general physical on every patient. So we do a target for a physical examination pertinent to the presenting complaint of that patient. But in inpatient, in hospital-based, you have to do a complete journal physical in every patient. So that's the only question I can see. That's it. Okay, then I think that's it.
ठीक है मैम, थैंक यू सो मच,
ठीक है
थैंक
जी,
यू।
थैंक यू so much. Okay, ठीक है, अल्लाह हाफ़िज़।